where does that come from? Because his face isn't on everything? I have no idea. I've done nothing but religiously promoted the Venus Project from the very, very beginning. And the idea, the complication itself doesn't exist. And this is why all Roxanne had to do was say, we're sorry, Jacques was just having a bad day. But this goes to show that there's a lot of bullshit that's being fed to Jacques about, oh, Peter Joseph's ego and he won't be Jacques and replace Jacques, or something like rhetoric that I see coming from people like Andrew Buxton and other people that are close to the Venus Project, that I feel they've been feeding Jacques bullshit. And ever since I told Roxanne that I can't publicly support thoroughly, while I'm going in back ways to try and get directors and support, I even created a promotional package for them. She sent me images. I was working with that. And then this comes out. It's all very discordal control now, and figure out where the movement's place should be. And the way I see it is we have to go straight to the data, rebuild our catalog of information videos, so where it's about the information only and it's irrespective of any institution.
I would like to further add that I spoke with Roxanne in January and asked her specifically about some things I was hearing from people internally about the name of the movement, how there were disappointments there, things, a few different just things here or there that I suspected were rumors, because it had not been anything that resembling communication that I've ever heard from Jacques or Roxanne. In fact, it was kind of contrary to what I'd heard. So I contacted her in January, right after the premieres of Zeitgeist Moving Forward, and to give her an update on what was happening with the screenings in the US and how excited we were about all the attention that was coming to the movement and to the Venus Project as a result of those screenings. And she kind of expressed to me that she was concerned that she felt Jacques wasn't featured in the films as much, and that there wasn't as much credit given. And I was very shocked to hear that. I said, well, actually, he is featured in the film, and the Venus Project is cited. And I also then said, and not only that, but at these events, there are materials being distributed to the attendees that direct people precisely to your website and to get more information, and to your books and DVDs and things like that. And I provided her with a sample of what went out to all of the, 800 people or so that attended the Los Angeles premiere. I had a very nice PDF to send her. And then she looked at that and she sort of retracted her statement, and she said, oh, I didn't realize that this was going out, so thank you for that. So I kind of thought, this is interesting. Maybe she's getting a different take, and I think that she has been getting information from various people who loosely associate themselves with the movement, but are maybe disgruntled people, and I feel like maybe they have left an impression on her of things that are miscommunications about what actually goes on, what we've done as activists. So from the statements, it's really difficult for me to wrap my mind around anyone seeing Peter has put out, or interviews that he's done, and to come away from that and think that Peter's trying to put himself on a pedestal, or that he doesn't credit Jacques, because more than anybody, he's always pointing back to the Venus Project. We are the activist arm of the Venus Project. And that's always been something we've stressed as chapters. And Peter has always been very exemplary of, talking about the ideas that were put forth by the Venus Project. So I found that interesting. And so I do find it sad. But I think another thing to remember is that these ideas are, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Jacques sourced a lot of information from Buckminster Fuller, from B.F. Skinner, from a lot of people before him. And when he speaks, he doesn't really cite them. And I've never brought that up to him, but they are on his reading list, and that's encouraged. But I really think that it's a new focus that he has on the credits. And I'm more than willing to give credit where credit is due. But I also would like to credit everybody here who's an activist, who puts forth these ideas, because there hasn't a communications aspect to, as far as mass communications aspect to what is the Venus Project until the Zeitgeist movement came along. So really, we are still the reason why this direction is getting attention in any kind of media, and that has been brought to the forefront in recent years and has gained so much attention. So at the very least, we should get more than enough credit for that and be able to take the ideas and focus on the ideas and the solid aspect of the scientific method for social concern. Putting human values first. Nobody owns that. No one can take ownership of that as being important. And we can go forth and still continue that message. And I definitely see life beyond this moment for the movement in amazing ways. And we can continue to do what we do best, which is bring these ideas to the mass populace, to newer generations, in ways that is characteristic of us in appealing to people emotionally and theatrically, or engaging them. And part of the other things I wanted to talk about in this particular meeting was that we've had some confusion about whether or not our movement has ever been going to be set up as a platform to educate people. And I would say really the only way I've seen the movement set up is to be a platform to encourage self-directed education and critical thinking, if anything else. So,
and what's up with all these credentials and things? We say because of Jack's works and Peter's works and the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement. I think that each one of us is we stand alone. It's an our mission. At least I consider that for myself. I'm outside the Zeitgeist movement. I'm outside the Venus Project. I am along with the decisions that I agree with, and then when I don't, and I continue. So it's the same either way.
Roxanne, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if you wanted to talk or something, now would be the time.
Okay, thanks. Jacques wanted to be here, but he's sleeping. I just wanted to say that we really appreciate what many of the members have done to advocate the Venus Project. We think it's time to have the people who want to advocate the direction of the Venus Project under the umbrella of the Venus Project. The Zeitgeist movement was originally talked about with Peter and myself and Jacques after Zeitgeist Addendum, but since then it has been essentially, as far as we can see, Peter's movement and Peter's direction. We feel that the direction of the Zeitgeist movement is going in another direction than what we want to go in. We feel that the Venus Project knows where we want to go, and we feel things need to be done. If people want to advocate the Venus Project, then we invite them to come and join us, work with us, but we cannot do it under the umbrella of a different organization that it's taking its own course and not working with us in many things. And so we invite you to join us, those who want to advocate the Venus Project. If you want to stay with the Zeitgeist movement, that's fine, but we're asking that you do not use our materials, you don't use our pictures, you don't use our things, because it's not. We don't have a say in how it's being advocated, and we're keeping things now under the Venus Project.
Thank you for that.
If nobody's going to speak, and I think maybe Peter perhaps should speak first, but Peter, if you don't want to say anything, then I'd like to carry on. Okay, then I'll take that as an okay. Roxanne, I have absolutely no idea what it is you're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, and I've been, I guess, part of the UK movement almost from the start. There were 25 of us back in 2008-ish. We started on a ning.com site, and it's grown ever since. But my point of view is that the Zeitgeist movement and the Venus Project are almost one cohesive unit, have always been so. I've spent many hours on the streets talking to individuals with no knowledge of either directions, and I've almost always advocated a resource-based economy based around the Venus Project and the scientific method for social concern. So how or why you'd want to come on here trying to separate the two, I'm lost. I completely just don't understand that one bit. So maybe you'd like to elaborate on that.
Because we really haven't been directing the Zeitgeist movement. And we feel before it runs into the ground, because we feel that there is not enough understanding of where it's going and how to get to where we want it to get to and keep the integrity of what it is, then we feel it needs to be run under the Venus Project if those want to work for the Venus Project. But I don't know what the Zeitgeist movement is at this point. It's advocating, what it advocates is what we are talking about, but it doesn't know enough to get there as far as we're concerned. So it's taking its own course, it's going in different directions, and we don't want to be subservient to that. We want to make sure the integrity is kept, and I appreciate all the work that people have done in this regards for the Venus Project, but it hasn't been, the Zeitgeist movement is not the Venus Project. The Venus Project is the Venus Project. For those who want to work on the Venus Project, we ask that they join us. If you have loyalties elsewhere, then whatever you feel you want to do, but we're asking people who want to work on the Venus Project, we need to keep it under the Venus Project. And that's the bottom line. If you want to join with us, please do. We want to make sure that it's going in the direction we feel will be most appropriate to achieve these ends, and it can't be done under someone else.
Hi,
Okay.
Roxanne. I have.
Whoa. Sorry.
Cut it up. Hold up, guys.
Sorry about that.
Brandy wanted to ask a question. Please let her do so first. And then if you want to talk next, then please message me so that we don't all do this all over the top of each other, okay?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Brandy, do you want to come? I was just going to ask you exactly what it is. You need to be perhaps a little bit more specific, Roxanne, what it is and where it is you think that the Zeitgeist movement is going wrong. But yield to Brandy. Coming in, Brandy.
Hi, Roxanne. I just wanted to ask if you could be direct and concise as to, I understand you're saying that you want people to work with the Venus Project, but I think it's important to everybody here, both in the Zeitgeist movement and those quote unquote loyal to the Venus Project, to understand exactly what you mean. And I mean from a physical sense. Do you mean physically visiting the Venus Project more regularly? And if that's the case, I'm not really sure how we can expect people to do that on a regular basis if they don't have the finances. But I mean, that's really more of a separate issue. I guess my main question is how you would articulate exactly what it is that you want us to do differently than what we have been doing. And I know there's various avenues that we can go into as far as the way certain behaviors or advocation habits can change, but if you could be more specific as to what exactly, for example, starting tomorrow, what exactly is it differently that you want us to be doing? Does that make sense?
We are going to have things on the Venus Project website that people can get involved in. Some of it would be activism. People could help in any way they can. We're going to have a list of ways that people can help to further the direction of the Venus Project. And if you'd like to join with us, join different groups. Some of it will be like teams on the Zeitgeist members movement, but not exactly that. We're engaged in specific direction and things that activities that we have. If you'd like to join us in that, then please do come to our website. We'll have it set up, if not tomorrow, then very shortly. We've always asked people to come and visit. If you'd like to do that, to learn more about the Venus Project, that can be done too. That's not a requirement to come here. But if you'd like to, that's fine, to learn more about it. But that's what we're advocating.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear on your answer, technically, if the Zeitgeist movement members wanted to continue in that direction with what you're describing as of right now, you wouldn't have a problem with that necessarily.
Continue working and advocating the Venus Project, is that what you're saying? Not through another...
Of what you're describing, as in if there was a change in behavior, if you were to, for example, put up a list of steps specifically that we needed to take, read The Best the Money Can't Buy, use these specific flyers and materials, reference this type of information, whatever the list of steps would be, if we were to actually go to the website and sort of restructure the how-to of what we're doing and actually follow specific steps and things like that to try to hone in on the direction that you're advocating in a better way, then would that be okay with you, or does my question make sense?
I'm not sure I know exactly, but yes, that's what we're going to do, but through the Venus Project. We don't want to go through another organization saying that they're advocating this when we have very little say in it, and we have very little say in the direction that it'll take. It's taking a different direction that we can't uphold. We can't say it's the direction of the Venus Project, because it isn't. And for it to be, it has to be done under the Venus Project. So we invite people to come work with us through our site and working with us directly.
Okay, the next person up was Miles.
Hi, Roxanne. I appreciate you coming in here, especially under these circumstances. I mean, in terms of the Zeitgeist movement, it is full of a lot of people who do know a lot about it, maybe not to the extent that you would like them to. But also at the same time, there are a lot of people in the movement who join it, and literally their understanding is they think the resource-based economy is a good idea and they haven't educated themselves enough. So I do agree there are issues there, but that can be dealt with. But the notion that promotion should be done through the Venus Project, I guess that is where I'm starting to have trouble sort of understanding this, because at the moment we have a movement who are willing to channel traffic and exposure towards the Venus Project. And I feel with what you're proposing, doing it just through the Venus Project, you're kind of suggesting that you and Jacques are happy to speak to every person on this planet to spread the word. And I just feel that's kind of taking a step backwards.
We don't think so. The Zeitgeist movement has become its own entity in a way, in different ways, that it's advocating different things that, quite frankly, after the Zeitgeist addendum was done and we talked about the direction of the movement, that's the last time we've had any direct say in where it goes or what it does or things like that. Peter has talked to us and perhaps felt that he clued us in on things. Many times when we've tried to say certain things, I know he mentioned that he shows us all the work or all his films beforehand. This isn't exactly true. We saw the last film a few days before it came out, and I made a suggestion and it was put down pretty heavily. It's very difficult for us to have to go through somebody else to try and get anything achieved, and especially when we don't have much of a say in that. We feel it's time to take the activist portion and take people who want to work towards the Venus Project and work with us directly. We can't go through a third party where we are not participants in it and make that work to be what we're advocating. It's just not working like that. It's being taken off in different directions, and it's something else. It's not the Venus Project. We can't have it go into something else and say it is the Venus Project. We can't promote it and say it's the activist arm in the Venus Project when we feel it isn't. That's the bottom line. So we're asking people to work with us with that directly, and that is what we're asking. Yes.
Just as a quick follow-up question, the thing I find difficult with this is, people are going to be talking about the Venus Project, whether they're in the Zeitgeist movement or not. I think when it comes to activism, the brand isn't what's important, it's the values that we advocate. And if the Venus Project has a movie made, there are going to be people that come out of the cinema, or as you call in the US, the movies, talking about it, and I think, would you rather have just singular people who aren't accountable to a particular movement directing people to the Venus Project, or would you rather have a movement that you actually have a good contact with and actually give some guidance to them and have them actually have a much more controlled way of guiding people to the resources that will actually educate them to the solutions that will help us deal with the world's problems of today? But that's a question. Thank you.
No, we don't want to go through a second party to advocate this direction, which we have very little say in. We want to have it done under the Venus Project. It would be controlled, it would be worked through the Venus Project, not through another party that takes it and does things with it as they wish. This is not the Venus Project, it's the Zeitgeist movement. So if we're advocating something, either you're advocating the Zeitgeist movement, which you say is the activist arm of the Venus Project. What you are promoting as a solution is the Venus Project. If it's not clearly the Venus Project, if it's going off in different directions that we can't deal with and we're uncomfortable with, then it's not the Venus Project. And we need to have it all under one umbrella, and this is what we're going to do. So, as I mentioned before, if you want to work for the Venus Project, please come and work with us. If you want to stay with the Zeitgeist movement, we're asking that you do not use our materials, you do not use our drawings, you do not, use our things, and work with us directly and use our things that way. Then we have a better understanding of what it's for, and we know it's going towards the direction that Jacques has originally prescribed and laid out.
Roxanne, just because this question keeps getting asked in the chat for clarification on one of the earlier questions, could you be specific as to what directions you feel the Zeitgeist movement is going in that the Venus Project does not approve of?
There are many things along the way. We're not interested in having somebody else direct the Venus Project. We want to make sure it's organized and followed through the way it was designed to be. We're not interested in going to. We have the designs for the future. We have the blueprints. We have a lot of things. Say, for instance, we're not interested in going and asking other people, asking scientists to come up and showing designs and showing designs in a resource-based economy. They can't do this. They haven't been trained for that. They come out of typical schools. They would have to be coordinated at this time under Jacques if we're going to do something like that. we're not interested, the Venus Project is not interested in presenting the designs and the blueprints for and showing them to the rest of the world. This is just one. We're not interested in that. Jacques started this way. He designed aircraft, and the Army took it and bombed quicker and faster. It's like casting pearl before swine. We're not interested in that. We would work, if we worked with countries or people who are interested, we'd share the technical ideas. We're not interested in doing things and say, look what we can do, here's what we have. We have the technical designs and the technology to do this, but we are, as I mentioned, we're not interested in presenting that now. There are several other things that we are not organizing this. And if it is the Venus Project, it has to be organized under the Venus Project. Otherwise, it just does not represent this direction. I'm sorry. It represents certain aspects of this direction, but not fully.
Well,
Jen
cancel the
Wilding was next.
collaboration.
Jen Wilding is next.
No. Han Solo is next at VTV.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Go ahead, man. I apologize.
Thank you, buddy. No problem. Roxanne, my question to you, I do have a point, and I'm going to make a very quick point, but I do have a real point that I want to make because I think what's being done here, there's a very good understanding of it for those that have had militancy for a long time. But what I'm going to ask you is, everybody that is saying the things that they're writing down there, which is they're printing and putting things out, if it weren't for Zeitgeist Addendum, nobody would be talking about Venus Project. So it is the work that has been done through the eyes and the lens of Peter Joseph, and what has now expanded into a mass mobilization that has given birth to the Zeitgeist movement in connection with the Venus Project. My question to you, and I have a follow-up point, is did you and Jack ask to be part of the Zeitgeist movement?
I don't know what that means. Did we ask to be part of the Zeitgeist movement? The Zeitgeist movement is supposedly the activist arm of the Venus Project, but we don't have much say in that. And nor do we want it to be done under a second party.
Roxanne, you don't have to repeat yourself. The reason for asking it, to make decisions on Zeitgeist movement, you have to be part of that organization. It's an organization in construction, so that's why I'm asking you, did you ask to be involved in the Zeitgeist movement?
To me, that's a ridiculous question. Who do I have to ask? Who am I subservient to in this? Do I ask you? I don't know what you're talking about.
I think he's just suggesting that you should participate, that's all. Is that what you're trying to say, Han Solo?
No. She made a point in her answer. That's not a problem. She can whatever she answers. But there's another thing that you're doing. This is a Zeitgeist meeting, right, Roxanne? You've come in and you've been with us for the number of years that you've been with us. Do you think that this is the format to come in and solicit people to come and join you? Don't you think maybe you could have come here, Roxanne, and said that you cannot function anymore and you're going to stop, but you cannot come here and also solicit within a movement and to solicit people to come and join you? It's almost like a slap in the face to everybody that's sitting here. This is not infantile stuff.
She was invited here.
Well, that
not get
understand the point.
Well, that
understand the point made.
Well, that kind of proves my point. But I don't mind leaving. I said what I wanted to say. And again, I really appreciate those who are interested in the Venus Project and want to work with it. And we invite you to come and work with us. Okay? Thank you. That's about all I have to say.
You do not have to leave. It was one individual's point, and everybody's responding to this in their own way. So that was not enough.
There are people here who still want to hear what you have to say, Roxanne. Jen was next to ask a question.
Well, Roxanne, thanks for coming in and clarifying things. I just want to say that so many volunteers have been a part of this effort. And I guess what sort of pains me in this situation is that I want you to know and Jacques to know that if you had had any specific issues, that we would have been happy to put forth your expectations. If it was something different than what we were doing, I wouldn't want you to walk away from this thinking that you didn't have an ear here in our movement. And yeah, I knew we were a separate entity, and I have an understanding that if we were going out of control, why you would want to pull back and have more control of that. But I do want you to know that there are ears here to listen to your feedback and who would be willing to make adjustments in that way. And there always have been. And I too want to just put forth part of the reason why so many people are emotional about this, including myself, obviously, is that the direction of the chapters and myself as a USA coordinator has been, for me, keeping a focus on just making people aware about the Venus Project and specifically Jacques Fresco's work. And I hope that we have succeeded in that and that we did not fail in that. In my view, we have succeeded in that in a big way. And I don't think that has dropped off. I think it's actually picked up. So I just wanted to make that statement because we're in a time where even more people are coming to this direction, and now it seems like we may be restricted in getting information out. I know that you want people to join your organization, then it becomes attached to a commercial venture, which is something that is actually been part of the attraction to our movement, is that it wasn't attached to that. So I want you to consider that as well, that I would hope that you would be open to allowing us to continue to use your materials, and if one is call them out on that, because I know the people in this room would be open to being called out on that.
You know, I appreciate how you feel, and I really do tremendously appreciate everything that people have been doing to help push the Venus Project. And I know it's been going on all over. And the hurt you feel is hurt I have felt for a long time now in regards to how we feel in relation to this, what's been happening with us. And we don't want to do it anymore. So I can't, it's like us telling the Atlantis City Project that they can use our drawings and renderings. We can't. We ask people, if they want to push the Venus Project, then join the Venus Project and do it with us. But I can't do it through a third party, a second party, whatever it is, anymore. We are finished with that. I don't want to lend our material to something that doesn't really, in the long run, represent us as we feel it should be. And that's all I can say. I wish you would join us if you really are interested in the Venus Project. So it just can't be called something else anymore. It's got to be under the Venus Project.
Speaker Jen.
I guess for me, the only function of the Zeitgeist movement, I mean, yes, we did use Peter's films as a tool, but the only function that I've been a part of has been directing people to the Venus Project. So to say how that's not in line with the Venus Project doesn't jive with me, and I think is why you're getting that question again and again. So I guess it's just that you have a certain way of you want to do things, and maybe it's things that we aren't aware of yet, but that can't be done in this current structure. So that's all that I can think is what you're putting forward. So.
we want to have a say in what's going on. And I'm not just talking about the commercial venture. Yes, we're doing a commercial venture, and we need support in that. We think that is an important thing. Peter doesn't, that's fine, but I don't want it squelched either. I don't want to have to ask somebody if we can do something when it's the activist arm of the Venus Project. And it's not just that. It's been many other things along the line. It started a long time ago, and that's just one portion that built up to it. This is a very important movie to us, and for somebody to say it won't happen, you can't happen, you won't get the money, I'm sorry, maybe we won't, but we're going to try, and it's something we've always wanted to do. We're not depending on the Zeitgeist movement to make this movie happen. We have many other connections that we're using and we're going to, and it's coming along beautifully. And it's like saying, I'm sorry, you can't make the airplane, it won't happen. Well, this is bullshit, and I don't want somebody representing the Venus Project who is putting us down like that. Maybe he had experience in the field, but that's not enough for me.
Actually,
We're going ahead with that. And we're going ahead with many other things and directing it how we see fit. It is a commercial venture. We live in the monetary system. Otherwise, we're carrying the whole thing ourselves. We are going out to getting other sources of funding. A lot of the funding that you see up there already is from other people. It's not all from the Zeitgeist movement. It's from other connections that we had privately, and there'll be more coming for that. This is a film that we feel is important, and I don't want to have to report to somebody else who isn't helping in this way in the direction that we would like to move under.
I get that. What I want to add about the movie portion is I don't know anybody that squelched it, but what I can say is that it, from Peter and people in the industry, it was instead suggested that people pursue investors with deeper pockets than make money a focus of the chapters while we're trying to introduce a resource-based economy. So I think it was not squelching the project, but offering a different way of achieving something to catapult it into a way that would have more impact. That's the only feedback I'm aware of.
Oh, we're doing that. We're not expecting the Zeitgeist movement to pay for it. The total project is a large sum of money. If we don't get it, we'll be doing an independent film. But we are still in the monetary system, and to have certain things done, it will take money all through the process of this. If people want to support that, and then that's fine. We're not making it mandatory. Then it's put on one person to do it. It's just like it was put on Peter to do the films himself. If it's a joint venture towards an end, then there's certain things that we should work towards together. Otherwise, you put it on that person to do themselves. We do need help even to get this started, and a lot of people were very, very grateful to be able to participate in it. They loved it. We get comments from all these people who really thanked us for doing it, and they wanted to be a part of it. So I don't see it that way. We don't see it that way.
Next person up was Voice of Reason. And also, don't poke me when you want to talk. Give me a PM, a private message, because I can't keep track of all the people poking me, because pokes are only up for a few seconds.
Well, that's good to know then. At any rate, Roxanne, if I may say, I have usually been I have for the most part anyways, been a supporter of the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement, and I have maintained a certain intermarriage, if you would, with the two. And whenever I describe the Zeitgeist movement, I usually describe it in the context of, what the Venus Project is, that's basically what the Zeitgeist movement is. And that's how I've approached it in that regard, but also as an individual within regards to specific things that I believe that the Venus Project may necessarily lack in certain aspects. I would point to other organizations as well with regard to with regard to the things that your organization, the Venus Project, particularly might lack, but I said that these are complementary. So I think what the issue here is that you're viewing these promotion of other ideas more or less as antithetical rather than viewing them as complementary. And I think that's what the real issue is, and at least that's what I'm seeing at least. Do you think that that might be the possibility of what's causing this fragmentation?
I think the fragmentation is that it's fragmented. I don't I don't have Greenpeace advocating the Venus Project and directing where it goes, and the Venus Project not having any say in what Greenpeace does with the Venus Project. This is the way I see it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, folks, I'm going to be giving talk power once again. Please PM me, don't poke me. The next person up was Jason. Let me enable his mic. Go ahead, Jason. Or did I enable you? I thought I did. This is why I didn't want to do it this way.
Isn't enabled yet.
Go ahead and enable him then. Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, Roxanne. It's Jason in Los Angeles.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, it's a pretty emotional evening. I just, I guess if there was an oversight for me on a personal level, it was an inability as a volunteer to this direction to maybe reach out a little bit more and to be in communication. That I understand a lot of your why you're making the decision you're making. For as for what I've always advocated, that it's about the educational imperatives, and just want you to know that that's what's been the most important thing for me is people come to the movement, at least in my circles, and it's about the best that money can't buy, and it's about their attraction was emotional connection through Peter's work on an artistic level, but the educational imperatives, the looking forward, all of the essays that are published. I'm constantly attacked that this is impossible, just as you are, and in the face of it, the reasoning behind the ideas is not lost on me, and it's an honor to be able to promote this direction, and I just want you to know that there are people out there that support this direction as an educational movement, not a doing things movement, because we're not money based. We are not a corporation. I don't get paid. I do this in spare time because I see the logic behind it, and I just want to let you know there's a lot and speak on your behalf. And I have a feeling that you might have been exposed because your phone number is published to a lot of noise, as I call it. But that's really the movement's not about the noise. Anyway, I'll just end it with that. Thanks.
No, I want to say again that we deeply appreciate people who are trying to help toward this direction, and we hope they'll still work with us. That's all I can say. We invite them to work with us directly.
I'm done, so you can move on.
Okay, I was just gonna ask. Alright, the next one up was Silvio. Are you still here? Oh, let me go enable you. Where is he? Still here? Yeah, there he is. Hold on. You're good. Go ahead.
I see that what we have here is a bad management issue. I agree, Joseph, that maybe it would be wise for us to save our agents for a later moment. Do not decide nothing now, and give a second try to this whole thing. It's not intelligent to do this split right now and to abandon all the efforts where they are so drastically as I see it will happen. And I'd like to state that this is a common pitfall that organizations get into when they are bad managed and I am up to help both organizations if they wish with consoles. I have written a document I have passed to Peter, and I have said many times before for him to read in that tips of how the Zeitgeist could solve this problem. And for you, Roxanne, I would like to say that the Venus Project should think about a second chance. Please think about second chance. Give us a time. Maybe we can solve the problems. Let us clarify all the problems that contributed to this decision, to this split, and so we can see what if the Zeitgeist fails the Venus Project again, then it would be considered a rational decision. But please, a second chance.
I, I, I would say the second chance is working with us directly. I'm not dissolving what anybody wants to do. They're saying they want to advocate the Venus Project, then let's continue advocating the Venus Project, but under the Venus Project. How many times to say that? I'm inviting you in rather than closing the door, and I feel, but it needs to be under the direction we see it should go in, where we have, where we have participation. That's the way we feel.
Okay. Just to give you guys another little heads up, this has always been a pet peeve of mine during Q&As. I know everybody really wants to express themselves, but don't sound off for long periods of time, and that's not directed at anyone in particular. Get the questions out, because it's 11:30, and Roxanne's on the same time zone as I am. There are a lot of people here from other countries, so we need to be kind of direct and to the point so that we can be efficient in our speaking time. That being said, the next 4 to UK. Let me enable your mic. One of the mods is faster than me. Go for it.
Okay, Roxanne. Two questions in general then. Firstly, it's my understanding that, excuse me, it's very late, it's 20 to 5 here in the UK in the morning, but it's my understanding that Peter's forwarded you virtually everything that was necessary, excluding time-sensitive material, for your authorization. So I'd like you to explain a little bit in a little bit more detail what it is that you apparently think that the Venus Project is not, the Zeitgeist movement is not advocating your direction on. And we'll go with that for one.
Peter has done a lot of great writing, but Peter cannot carry things through to the extent that it could be carried through under the Venus Project. Jacques is the one that arrived at this material. He knows more about a lot of things than Peter does although I don't think Peter feels that way. And I don't think Peter felt that way from the beginning when he organized this, from some things that I've read. And we want to keep the integrity of this, and we want to make sure things are done according to the findings that Jacques arrived at. So this is what we'd like to do. We'd like to make sure it's done under the direction of Jacques and the Venus Project, if it is the Venus Project. I don't want to hand it over to somebody who takes things in their direction. As I mentioned, I don't want to repeat myself over and over again, but some things were given to us to read. We had comments, and a lot of times when we made those comments, I ended up apologizing because I didn't get much cooperation with certain responses. I don't want to apologize anymore. We want to take it, and we want to take it in the direction that we feel is most appropriate. We appreciate the things that Peter has done. I know he brought the name of Jacques and the Venus Project to the public, but it doesn't mean that he can take it and direct it. That's it.
Under no circumstances, Roxanne, I've ever tried to take this direction and direct it, and you know that for a fact. Every element of the movement has been groups of people going out across the world, organizing themselves to bring a focus to a resource-based economy, hence the Venus Project. I think you clearly don't even understand what the point of the movement was to begin with. The reason it's called the Zeitgeist movement and not something related to the Venus Project is because my hope was to extend this to something a little bit broader while keeping the core focus of a resource-based economy. So other activists might come in under the umbrella to say, yes, well, we work with Greenpeace, but yet I think it's time we look at the larger problem, which is the socioeconomic system. And that's where this came to be. So your insinuation of all of this with respect to some control attribute or me taking things over is, well, complete bullshit, and you know it. I'm tired of listening to all of this shit coming from you guys with respect to this egoism that you have now. I've done nothing but selflessly promoted you guys over and over and over and over and fucking over again. And my emotional disdain now for this slap in the face, all because, really in the end, because I won't support your $20 to $30 million movie, all because I literally said I would support it, but suggested that you guys simply not pose this on the community because this is a bunch of poor people that are trying to help you, and this ridiculous put all eggs in one basket. This is ridiculous, and it's going to fail. And I said that to you because I mean it, because you're not going to raise that money from anyone in the community, except when you get a director and a real investor behind it. So I really, really strongly suggest, for the sake of your own integrity, stop putting people down that are trying to help you, and that's all anyone here has ever tried to do. If you want to have the egoism, they have the Venus Project as the hub, and put Jacques Fresco on the pedestal, and let everyone go to hell if they don't agree with everything that you guys want to do from top to bottom, that's your decision. But do not conflate the issue with this being somehow the wrong direction. This has always been the Venus Project direction from the very, very beginning. I have sent you everything that was relevant to this movement from the very beginning, from the PDF and everything else, for your approval. The only disagreement out of maybe 3 you've ever had to content have been only with respect to how Jacques is credited. That was your grievance with respect to Zeitgeist moving forward. You said, oh, the city system section doesn't have Jacques as a high point. I said, listen, there are going to be hundreds of on-screen credits that say the Venus Project, designed by the Venus Project. So you really, both of you, need to step back and stop fucking people over that are trying to help you. And I'm sorry to be pissed off, but you've really insulted myself and a big portion of people, and I can't stand to see all of this work go down the drain because of this egoistic bullshit, which is exactly what it is.
Well, I disagree with that entirely, but I just disagree with it. That's all I can say, Peter. It's not about that. It's not about just asking for money. We have always just been working in our own direction, and the Zeitgeist movement was working in its own direction, and we will continue to work in this direction. And those who want to join us, please do.
The Zeitgeist movement has no direction. The Zeitgeist movement's here to promote the Venus Project and a resource-based economy. We don't do anything on our own. We are simply a group of people trying to help move the world into a better place. And I don't understand how this became so complicated. And frankly, all I can think of is because of my emotional disposition. I haven't been able to travel there over the course of the past few months. I wasn't able to make it as fast as I wanted to. Couple that with the fact that I have publicly stated I'm not comfortable with your fundraising. That is the only thing. In January, when I saw you guys, you could have easily sat me down and said, listen, we're uncomfortable with this, this, and this. And you think I would, what, I'm going to ignore you? Do you think I'm just not going to listen to you and do my own thing? At no point has anyone said to me directly, Peter, we're concerned about this. We really need you to address this, or we want to be more involved in this. You haven't even stated that at one point. Never.
Whoa. Okay. Roxanne, I'd like to just come back and mention that me and you had a conversation on Skype probably last year, and you may not remember. I don't expect you to remember. Speak to a lot of people, but one of my criticisms, if you will, was that the fact that the Venus Project doesn't seem to be working with any other organisations. And in fact, I spoke to you about Jeremy Rifkin at that point, and I have to admit, and I'm not trying to take sides here, but I have to admit that the feedback that I got was that was a very sort of superiority sort of feeling, if you will, and but it's curious because you mailed me back about 2 weeks later. Asking me if I'd made contact with Jeremy Rifkin, and I had, and I'd mentioned the Venus Project to him, and mentioned at the point that Jacques had now read his book and wanted to make contact with Jeremy, and I forwarded you some information and emails for you to do that. All that's kind of besides the point in many respects, but I have to admit that the feeling that I got when I first spoke to you on Skype was that it was your way or the highway sort of thing, and that was a little bit disappointing. And Peter's just explained himself very articulately, and I have to agree with him. You've had every opportunity to discuss any problems that you felt that the Zeitgeist movement wasn't moving in any specific direction, and as Peter said, none of that's happened. So this is really gobsmacking for me personally, and many other members. We've advocated the Venus Project for many years. I have personally as well. I can only reiterate what I said in the first place, that I have no idea really it is you're talking about, and it's just completely gobsmacking. And Neil, you can turn my mic off. I'm done. I think the conversation here, unfortunately, is done. Thanks.
Okay. The next person up was Jonathan Bird. Unless you had anything to say, Roxanne.
No, and we tried to make contact with Jeremy Rifkin and several times, and it didn't come through. We would love to make contact with Jeremy Rifkin.
Okay. If somebody gets him to do it before me, Jonathan Bird is the next person up. Sorry about the slowness. There's a lot of frickin' people in here.
I have nothing to ask.
All right, go ahead, Jonathan.
I think he said that he has nothing to ask, Neil.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The next one up is J.C. Denton. Having trouble finding him. There he is. J.C. Denton, your mic is open.
Okay, Roxanne, I wanted to ask you this. Wasn't the Venus Project based on? Wait a second. Wasn't supposed to be based on the scientific method to arrive at conclusions, And if because I talked to Peter and he exposed his arguments on how raising funds for the movie was illogical. You wouldn't get the money from poor people, and I agree with him. I saw the logic in what he was saying, but I can see the logic on what you're doing right now. It doesn't seem to be efficient to be logical on how to do it. So I know you explained your arguments on why you took that decision, but aren't we supposed to come to a helping conclusion, a connection between that would benefit us both, the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement? And after all, it's the same, because you say, well, you can't use our things that we ask you not to do, but it's not your things. Those things are universal scientific concepts. You can't hold ownership on them.
I'm talking about the drawings and the models and things like that.
Yeah, well, those concepts still, well, maybe not the secret city, and those things, but come on, they're beneficial for the people. They are already all on the open. If we must use logic, we have it, whenever we want to.
It's, I'm not telling you what to do within the movement, but we're not advocating a movement. We want to advocate the Venus Project directly, and we're not lending out those pictures and drawings and designs to another organization now. I'm not asking, if you want to work with this, I don't know how many more times I need to say it, but, come and work with us. I know there's a lot of people that might not want to, that are hurt, that see it in a different way, but this is what we feel is important now.
But Roxanne, why do you guys want to be in control? I mean, don't you want to share the control? Don't you want to explain to us what's the best thing to do? Don't you want to expose all your next movements and say this is what we're gonna do? Do you agree? If you don't, why you don't? Isn't that logical thing to do?
A lot of people will be taking control in a lot of different ways with what we're doing too. Within the Venus Project, this isn't about that kind of control, but I mean, this is it. We don't feel we can patch things now, so this is pretty much all I have to say with it. And I guess I don't want to keep repeating myself, but this is all we can do at this time. So again, I leave the door open. If you want to work with us, do.
Well, just last thing. Well, I don't feel compelled to. I just don't. When you say join us or don't use our things, I say see the logic in what we're doing and then join us. Or by example.
We've tried that for a long time, and this is what it's come to with us. So.
Well, for the sake of the argument, I ask everyone here on this room to check arguments of the Venus Project on the movie and the fundraising. They're just not logical. They're not getting the movie done without unless it gets picked up. I don't know if it's going to. I hope so, but it's logical to ask poor members to. Okay, that someone says enough. Okay.
I'm not asking members who are poor to do this. It's a voluntary thing in terms of this particular thing. We're not asking them to fund the whole thing. We were doing seed money to try and take it to a certain point. If you don't want to help in that, you don't have to help in that. There are many members that did want to help in that, but that's all we're asking, and that's it. I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to go back up to the house, and I mean, we can.
Can we another time?
Yeah, you can. We're accessible by phone. We're accessible. We'll probably have certain meetings on the Venus Project, or where people can join in, or we're just organizing it right now, so you can check back, and
okay.
And I'm sure a lot of people won't work with us. That's fine, but I know that there are a lot of people that want to, so we're accessible.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, thanks.
Roxanne. Thank you for coming and for answering the questions of those interested, and of course, good luck with any efforts that you are going to undertake.
Okay, I'm sorry to the folks who were in line, but there was a lot of people in here, so. But as she pointed out, getting a hold of the Venus Project is not difficult. I mean, I got a hold of them just by picking up a telephone. They do answer their emails, they do answer their phone.
They just don't answer questions.
That's uncalled for.
I think she didn't make any sense of what she said. I think
Guys,
it was just an attack to Peter and not to the movement itself. That's why they don't make sense.
Well, I just
Okay, the lady came in here at like 11 at night to talk to everybody. You may not agree with what she said, and I understand. Just get rude.
I think you missed the point. It's not a matter of being rude. Hold on one second.
The thing is,
No, hold on one second, please. She cannot come here, VTV, and do what she did. This is an absolute disrespect. She can come here and say she can no longer work, but she cannot recruit in our meeting. And you accepted it, and you guys understand the difference, and that's why we're here today.
I agree with
totally
you.
wrong.
I agree with you.
Don't get
You're
irrational.
just proving your point.
don't get